Hi, we've just finished our class online, so I'm going to continue with these videos that I'm posting on Blackboard. So, to go on with other sagas, I will present to you the Theban saga. So, you remember that this Greek myth is tracing a family curse through 3 generations and was a favorite theme of Etruscan artists. So the story is best known from several Greek tragedies, as you remember, that tell the story of Oedipus, king of Thebes in northern Greece, and of his family. So following Oedipus' exile, it was agreed, if you remember, that his son Eteocles and Polynices would take turns ruling over Thebes. So here you can see on an Etruscan funerary urn the fighting over the kingship of Thebes of Eteocles and Polynices. So you see that on their funerary urn where they were putting their ashes, on the lid is portrayed the deceased, in this case a woman, and a theme of a Greek myth, the seven against Thebes. So when Eteocles' year was up, he refused, if you remember, to hand the throne over his brother. So Polynices collected six champions and laid siege to the city. 7 champions from each side fought in hand-to-hand combat on pair at each of cities, so of Thebes, 7 gates. So this is the battles of the 7 against Thebes. In this terracotta decoration of an Etruscan temple, we can see Tydeus biting into the head of the still living Melanippus, while Athena, to the left, raises her hand in horror. This is a terracotta relief from a temple of Pyrgi, that's a harbor of the Etruscan city of Cerveteri, dated in between 470–460 BCE. The context of the scene is religious because it's a temple decoration, so there is a religious moral. The religious moral is to avoid offending the gods. Here we can see again the saga of the 7 against Thebes in this terracotta pediment composition of the temple of so-called Talamonaccio, so in the region of the Tuscan city of Grosseto. Is the first closed pediment in Etruria, showing the Greek myth of the 7 against Thebes. And it's dated in the 2nd century BCE in high relief, as you can see. Then, many times the heroes are portrayed in Etruscan art, for example, Heracles. The most famous representation of Heracles in Etruscan art is in the scene of Apollo and Heracles contending over the Cyrenian Hind. This scene is appearing 12 meters above the ground on beams of the acroterion of a sanctuary in the city of Veii, the sanctuary of Minerva. So the Etruscans were many times putting statues on top of the beams of their roofs that are called acroterion. So here there is the entire scene. So this is a reconstruction of the group showing an Etruscan version of Heracles' 3rd labor, so the Cyrenian Hind. From the left we have Hermes, then Heracles with bound Hind, then Apollo and Artemis on the right. So the third labor is about the Cyrenian hind. So it was one of the 5 golden horned deer sacred to Artemis. Four of these immortal and very regal creatures served the goddess by pulling her golden chariot. One had done a runner and had to be recaptured, and this was the labor of Heracles, especially to give it back to Artemis unwounded. So these are the parts of the statues, of the original statues, that are now in the Villa Giulia Museum in Rome, an international Etruscan museum, coming from the sanctuary of Portonaccio in the Etruscan city of Veii. This is the head of Hermes. Then here we have Heracles and the hind. Here is the famous Apollo. That's the most famous statue because it's the best preserved. And it's famous because it's an example of the style, international style brought to Etruria. That's dated to the end of the 6th century. It was probably made by the sculptor Vulca. That's the only Etruscan artist whose name is known. Then the last figure is this Artemis. That's pretty controversial because the figure of the goddess is carrying a child. Then, if you think about it, Heracles is connected with the name of the goddess Hera. In fact, the meaning is glory of Hera. But usually in Greek myths, Heracles is not connected with Hera. Usually is Athena in Greek mythology who protects him, while in Etruscan art, Hera, if you remember is called Uni, appears in a more protective role, so more connected to the original name of the hero. For example, in this mirror that you can see on the right, that's preserved in the Archaeological Museum of Florence, Uni is symbolically adopting Heracles. And in which way? Here she is shown suckling Heracles, that's the transliteration of Heracles in Etruscan myths, in order to make him immortal. So this is very interesting, the interpretation of the name of the hero by the Etruscans. Then, to see the presence of another hero myth in Etruria, we can see Perseus and Medusa. So here you can see the Gorgon Medusa as an antefix. An antefix was an architectural decoration to hide the gap of the roof tiles with the infrastructure of the roof. So close the empty space of the round tiles. These are important decoration and common decorations, especially in Etruscan temples. This Gorgon antefix is in fact coming from the same temple of the group of Heracles and Apollo, so the Portonaccio temple in Veii. But so, in Greek mythology, the Gorgon, plural Gorgons, was a terrifying female creature, and it derives from the Greek word gorgos, which means dreadful. So, across Greek literature, description of Gorgons vary, but the term commonly refers to any of 3 sisters who had hair of living venomous snakes, and an horrifying gaze that turned those who beheld it to stone. Traditionally, while two of the Gorgons were immortal, Steno and Euryale, their sister Medusa was not, and so she was slain by the mythical hero Perseus. Because of their legendary gaze, images of the Gorgons were put by the Etruscans upon objects and buildings for protection. For example, you can see here on an Etruscan vessel this fanged Google-eyed Gorgon flanked by standing winged lionesses or sphinxes on a vessel from the Etruscan city of Volci. Then, as we have seen before, here there are other examples of the head of Medusa used as an antefix. Here on the up left, you can see the use of the antefixes. This is a floral one, but there were others showing heads, and many of them heads of Gorgons and of Medusa in particular. This was to ward off evil forces, to protect the temple. These are other examples of Etruscan antefixes showing Maenads and satyrs, so from the myth of Dionysus. Then another hero that for sure was known by the Etruscans was Bellerophon. Bellerophon was the hero who killed the Chimera. So this statue, this bronze statue of the Chimera, called the Chimera of Arezzo, is one of the most important works of arts coming from Etruscan art, and is preserved in the Archaeological Museum of Florence. It's called of the Chimera of Arezzo because was found in this Etruscan city, a modern than today city in Tuscany, in 1553, and was quickly claimed for the collection of the Medici Grand Duke of Tuscany, Cosimo I. So, in Greek mythology, the monstrous Chimera ravaged its homeland, Lycia, that was in Asia Minor, until it was slain by Bellerophon. So, the Greek hero riding the winged horse Pegasus. The foreleg of this monstrous beast has an inscription, so was a gift for the supreme god of the Etruscan called Tinia, so a votive object dedicated to Tin or Tinia. Okay, so now we will go on seeing the vision of the underworld and the reflection of Greek myths in this, in Etruscan art and beliefs, to then go on with the connection in between Etruscan and Roman sagas. Bye.